John's from the US.
Peter's from the UK.
John lives in Krakow.
Peter lives in Warsaw.
We love Poland.
But we're not Polish. We're
Ish. Hello and welcome to Polish, the podcast where two expats share their thoughts about living in Poland. I'm joined today, as always, by the Fahrenheit to my centigrade. It's my American amigo, John Nett. Hello, John.
Hello, Peter, and welcome. Welcome. It's good. It's good to do this. It feels good.
It is good to do this. Yes, it always feels good. And of course, welcome to all our listeners around the world. And we know they're around the world.
Why do you say that, Peter? Are there perhaps people listening from around the world more and more?
I've got all the stats. Welcome to Kenya joining us this week. Fantastic. Lovely to have you here. This is our 15th episode. And if this was our wedding anniversary, we'd be handing over crystal gifts to each other, John. We're joined today by another special guest. His name is Jo Harper, a British guy. Yeah, there's plenty of us about. He's a freelance journalist and a published author. And he's going to be quite candid about the struggles he's had here in Poland. You know, sometimes it doesn't always work out the way we planned.
Right. I really look forward to hearing his side of the story. It's not always the happy-go-lucky, the only focusing on the positives, but like any normal person, you also have, the negative sides to it. So I think he's definitely going to put a bit of spotlight on that in that area. And I think is very important. I think it's very important.
Indeed.
And it's good to be open about it.
Yeah, he's not going to sugarcoat it, that's for sure.
That's right.
John, you've been busy this week. I bet you haven't got a thing of the week for me.
Oh, I sure do have a thing of the week for you, Peter.
Okay, well, in that case, let's call this section
Polish thing of my week.
My Polish thing of the week, Peter. I thought about how grateful I was when you gifted me these beautiful, beautiful cards with, of course, our logo on it, right?
Uh-huh.
Now, what really, really bothers me, though, at what point where should I distribute those? Who should I give it to? That is effectively my Polish thing of the week that I've been, of course, thinking about for the last few weeks.
10 seconds? So how about, I'll just give it some context. I printed these little square cards with our logo on them and a QR code so people can scan them and go to our website, and obviously links there directly to Spotify, Apple Podcasts and Amazon Podcasts. So they're little ones that we hand out. We were together in Krakow. We left a few in the bar on some tables. I'll tell you what I do, John. When I'm walking through my local park and I'm hearing people speaking in English, I approach them and say, would you please be so kind as to listen to our podcast? And I give them a card. So far, the reaction has been quite positive.
Okay, good to know. Good to know. I will have to do the same then. I'm just afraid of coming up to strangers.
Oh, yeah, me too. But, I think the difference here, actually, because I'm in Warsaw and I'm kind of in the suburbs, the English speakers I'm likely to come across are residents or temporary residents who, or expats who would, appreciate the podcast more than perhaps the people you would come across in central Krakow, which are more likely to be visitors or tourists.
Right. So, but good to know. Good to know. See, perhaps we'll get some listeners that can send their own opinion on what should John do. Should I get on my balcony and perhaps just throw them out as a handful into the streets and everybody flock together?
That's happened in Krakow and Kazimierz before, that's for sure.
And what about you, Peter? What is your thing of the week?
Oh, great. My thing of the week. Well, because I anticipated you not having a thing of the week, so I've got two things of the week. Now, according to the rules of the Polish podcast, is that allowed even?
What do you mean? To have two things of the week?
Yeah.
I suppose we'll let it happen. We'll let it happen. Okay. We'll see how exciting your first Polish thing of the week is, and then we'll debate whether or not you say the second one.
And listeners, if you only hear one, we will know how bad my first one or second one was. Now,
well, let's see.
Let's see. Have you heard of a comedian called Benny Hill?
Benny Hill. I can't say I have. Is that bad?
No. I think he drops between our generations. So he was, so his years were 1924 to 1992. So, he wasn't active, I guess, at the time you were watching a lot of TV, but he was an incredibly popular British comedian, sort of very much in the old style, very much slapstick humor,
Okay.
sort of kind of a forerunner to Mr. Bean and possibly influenced by Charlie Chaplin, in that sort of same
Okay.
mold. So lots of speeded up action, but he's a little bit risque and is a little bit now, you'd say, very much
Controversial.
non-PC. So yeah, controversial. He's fallen. He fell out of popularity quite rapidly. But he had this thing called the Benny Hill Show, really fast-paced, cheeky, very slapstick, as I say, double entendres throughout, and it became incredibly popular in Poland during the 1990s. Apparently. So I was a bit shocked when I was cycling through the local park, Polomar Kotowskie, and there's a little roundabout named after him, Rondo
Oh.
Benny Hilla, which was rather sweet.
Why do you think they decided to name a street after him?
It's a little bit odd. It's not a public highway. It's a roundabout on a bike path, and apparently locals did it. Local residents who are fans decided that that's what they would call this little roundabout. In fact, there's a grammatical error in the naming of it, which they call it Rondo Benny Hilla, but actually, if it's in the name of Benny Hill, it should be Rondo Benny Ego Hilla. So I have to get
Oh.
my Sharpie out and correct that next time I'm cycling through.
All right. Well, I like that. I think it's
Yeah.
nice to have little names you can spot on your bike ride. So there's one.
That'll stick in the edit, hopefully. We're going to call that one my lowbrow thing of the week. So I've got a highbrow thing of the week now.
Ooh, this is the
Ooh.
highbrow. Okay, hit us.
Hit us. I went to the Museum of Modern Art at the weekend with some friends, which was I don't know if you've seen it, the huge, beautiful, almost eye-stopping white block building in front of the museum, the Palace of Art and of Culture and
Now,
Science.
before you tell us more, Peter, I've heard many mixed feelings about this museum. So I would be very curious to hear what you have to tell us.
Well, my friend who was visiting with us is an architect, and she came away feeling positive about it. Approaching it from the exterior, it doesn't strike me as that wonderful.
Oh, you
But
mean
then
the
when you
white
walk,
box?
yeah, the white box, yeah. But then it symbolizes a very modern style of architecture, and I think that contrasts
It sure does.
sharply with the Platz des Filades, where it's the parade square where it's situated. It's a very symbolic part of Warsaw, especially during communist times. So I think putting it there is strategic and deliberate. But inside the building works really well. The light goes through it wonderfully well. It's an incredible exhibition space. I really, really enjoyed being inside there. Really much so.
Okay. Well, I'm happy to hear that you've convinced me. I haven't been
It's
too
very
sure
much.
whether or not I should take the time.
Yeah, I'd highly recommend it. It's becoming a very modern, iconic architectural landmark in that part of the city. And hats off to Thomas Fire, who led the US team of architects.
Okay, so
he needs a name check.
Yeah, so quick, Peter. Bonus question. What struck you the most entertaining, beautiful, or just awe-inspiring piece of art?
It was a bit of a whistle-stop tour, so I didn't take it all in. But there was one artist called Julie Mehretu. She's kind of Ethiopian African, but I apologize, Ethiopian American, who I think at first sight her paintings are very chaotic, kind of abstract looking. But when you get up close and you sort of look at the detail, you realize there's order in there. So she's got so much happening all at the same time. She's got this ability to, on a magnificent scale, kind of portray chaos coming out of order, which is her life effectively. And I think it fits very well with the Polish psyche as well. She has Polish roots on her mother's side, I subsequently found out. So,
Right.
And this sort of taps into, you could say, themes that Poles know quite well, the sort of, borders shifting, sort of collision and history, nations reinventing themselves. It's very hard to describe. It's absolutely beautiful. Really is.
Do they change the exhibition often?
They do. I think this one runs till the end of August. So listeners in Warsaw or visiting Warsaw, I do encourage you to go and have a little look.
Okay, great. Thanks for letting us know, Peter. It sounds like you approve and recommend to anyone listening and visiting Warsaw.
Polecam gorąco. Now, it's time for...
3 in 10.
I know, 3 and 10, John. It's 6-7 to you. I mean, let's just not mess around. Hit me with it. What do you got for me?
Are you sure? You really want to go for it this time? All right. So
yeah.
I'm looking down in my notes, right, Peter? Because I really want to pick one that'll get you thinking. Because the more I look back on our 3 and 10s, we talk a lot about places in cities or around the cities. Today,
Yes.
I want to go into nature. So, Peter, I would like you to name 3 wild animals that live in Poland. Go.
Do you want the Polish words?
You just do English. Just do English.
Okay, we've got bison. We've got dziki, and we've got bube.
Keep going. Yeah, that was great.
Will that
That was fantastic. So so the first one, żubr, which is the bison, right? And then you said the second one, dzik, which is the wild boar.
It is the wild boar, yes.
And buber, I think many people know this one. What is it, Peter?
It's beaver, John.
It is. I won't say the video that's very famous for it because, it involves a certain word. But
and we did do that on a previous podcast.
we did, didn't we?
Yes.
Very good,
Recycling is very popular. And have you seen any of those in the flesh?
So the bubr, the beaver, yes. The wild boar, absolutely, because there are quite a few on the west side of Krakow, I think, towards the parks. But the żubr, I have not. In the east side of Poland, I think there's a big national park where they're protected, right?
Yes, indeed they are. Yeah, we talked about wolves in a previous episode and bears. So I think we've covered our mammals pretty well in this Polish podcast.
And the question, have you seen any of these animals, Peter? Remind us.
So I've seen the dzik. I've seen little baby dzik. Is so sweet. They're little stripy guys. They're gorgeous.
They are cute.
They are indeed. And I've seen the bub very close to central Warsaw here. And the damage they do is extraordinary. The trees they bring down. It's they're clever. They're clever beasts. Those ones. They know exactly what they're doing. Little furry engineers, I like to call them.
And what about the bison? Have you had the chance to visit those?
No, the closest I've got is to żubrówka, the bison grass alcohol. But we've covered alcohol so much on this podcast. I'm making a deliberate step away from that for any teetotal listeners.
You got in trouble with your wife, and it's time we step away from this.
How do you know? You know I did. Wow, that's very instinctive of you.
So well done. Does that make us 7 all?
Yes, it does indeed. Can the listeners stand the jeopardy? I know I certainly can't.
It's starting to sound like a game of squash, but sooner or later, you will be squashed, Peter.
Youth always wins out. Let's jump into the ad break, and we'll be joined by Jo on the other side.
All right, I look forward to it.
Welcome back to part 2 of the Polish podcast. I'm delighted to say we've been joined by Jo Harper, our special guest today. Jo is a British freelance journalist and a published author, and he's got a fascinating story to tell. He's written books about Poland, and I think if we're lucky, he's going to share with us today some personal and sometimes quite surprising tales from his life here in Poland. Jo, that's the introduction I'm giving you. You're going to live up to that?
Hello, good morning. Thank you for that. I don't know. I'm not sure if I'm able to live up to that, but yes, I will do my best. Yes.
Now, tell us a little bit, first of all, about some of the publications that you have to your name.
I came here in the early to mid 90s, and I did my doctoral thesis in London about the Round Table Talks 1989 in Poland. And I didn't know anything really about Poland before I came. I'd been accepted to do the PhD, and then I came here thinking, well, I should probably know something about Poland. So that was 93, I think. I came to Sopot and had a month of trying to learn Polish, and I spent a month drinking beer, I think, in Sopot. as you do. And so anyway, I finished the PhD eventually 4 years later. I spent a year in Krakow at the university, and then and in the process of doing the PhD, I also got married. Wasn't connected, but it felt like it was kind of a form of field research in a way. Got
Yeah.
married, and I lived with a Polish family. I lived with Joanna's family in Gdynia for a long time, for 4 or 5 years. And then I started working as a journalist in early 2000s, and I think I've worked for more or less every single English language publication. Poland Today, Tomorrow, Yesterday, Monthly,
Yeah.
Weekly, Yearly, etc.
Life of a freelancer, right?
I was Reuters correspondent for the north of Poland for about a year, and I lived in Gdynia, which was kind of interesting. Very badly paid, sporadic, and ultimately kind of futile. Got divorced, moved back to the UK, came back to Poland a year later.
So what drew you back to Poland?
Mm-hmm.
I had a wife and a house and two dogs
Right.
in
Yeah.
Gdynia, and the possibility of kind of reconstructing my life here. But I managed to mess it up. I, kind of fell in love
Mhm.
with somebody else, and then I had a couple of years of behaving very kind of badly, which is in a sense maybe what I wanted to do. I kind of destroyed my marriage in the process of doing that. So maybe that's what I wanted to. And anyway, I didn't desperately want to stay in Poland. I had to get divorced, sell my house, kind of tried to tie up those loose ends, and then I met somebody else in Warsaw. And then within a year, I was married again and had kids. I had twins. We had twins. And then my wife got pregnant again 3 months after giving birth to the twins. So we had 3 kids within the space of 12 months, or more or less 12 months. And I went back to freelance. I was freelancing anyway, but I went back to kind of, let's say, full-time freelancing. I worked for merger markets in London and other places. And then I got a job in Germany working for Deutsche Welle for 3 years. I was in Bonn.
Okay.
And while I was in Bonn, I suddenly realized I had a lot more time than I'd had when I was living in Warsaw. And my wife was looking after the 3 kids, being helped by her mum and dad and family and so on. But anyway, I had a lot of time, so I decided to write a book. It was a year after the return of the return of peace, Kaczynski and so on, in 2016. I think they won the election in 2015, and it was also the time of Trump and the beginnings of Brexit and all
Right.
the Brexit
A lot
stuff.
happening.
The first one was trying to explain how it was possible for a country like Poland, which had somehow which had been kind of heralded as the great success story. How was it possible for it to go back into the bad old days? The kind of populist, nationalist, whatever. And people, and suddenly the media, the Western media, the British media, people that I was kind of talking with, they were suddenly interested again in Poland. What's going on? And I thought that the story wasn't being told very well. There was a lot of kind of anger and disbelief. How can this happen? Poland, we thought was democratic and like us, and so. And it always struck me that there was another Poland or other Polands that were not that pro. They were the much more traditional, much more connected to things which maybe the West had moved away from. Kind of family tradition, the church,
Yeah.
etc.
It's easy to misread that, and the politicians seem to be making that mistake even up to today, to misread
Yeah, I
that,
think
how
so.
important and how big a part of the Polish population these people are.
Yeah, exactly. And when you're married and you've got kids in it, it's quite difficult to avoid the kind of the micro consequences of that, or the world in which I lived suddenly became the macro world, which I was trying to sort of explain in this abstract way, suddenly became very real. The kids needed to be baptized. There were certain ideas about
Yes.
bringing up kids, what you could and couldn't say. There were the kind of traditional roles for the kind of men and the husband and the wife, and what the man was supposed to do, and all of that kind of stuff. So I kind of got dragged into that, and then I suddenly ended up in Bonn on my own, and I thought, okay, this is a great opportunity to write a book. So I basically I contacted all the people that I knew back in Warsaw and others, other people that were kind of interested, academics, lawyers, journalists, and other people. So I collected a lot of essays about their experiences, kind of anecdotal, but also, kind of academic, journalistic, media stories about people's experiences of Poland and why a lot of us who lived here at the time weren't that surprised by the return of Kaczynski and his friends. And it it was a hardback and it was expensive and I don't think anybody read it. And
But this was your first one.
That was my first one. Yeah, I was already 50. I never published a book before. I'd never been involved in that. I'd just been a kind of traveling hack, really, a traveling hack with a PhD, thinking that he was clever, and discovering that he didn't know anything about anything. And
But
and
was
then
there
I
a
got
reaction to that book? Was there, were there reviews? Was there positive,
yeah,
negative?
they were quite positive. I mean, the odd thing I think the odd thing is that most Polish academics, or most Poles generally, I think they know how strange the country is, and they know they just know it in their bones, right? They just know. They feel it, and when a foreigner explains it to other foreigners, it's like, well, yeah, that's obvious. Why do we? We don't. So they were kind of the Polish reaction was quite polite, but I suspect there's a lot of kind of private. Well, he doesn't really get it. He has his version, and that's a version that other foreigners can kind of digest and kind of understand it. So that's okay.
How many books now have you written? How many have you published?
3.
Total? Okay.
Three.
Okay. And is there a fourth one on the way?
Yeah, there's a fourth one on the way. Yeah, I'll come to that in a second. The fourth one is the one that I sent the other day to Peter, and it's a completely different kettle of
It
fish.
certainly is.
The second one that I wrote during COVID, and I think I went a bit crazy like everybody else, and I wanted to write a kind of satirical but clever book about Western media coverage of Poland again. And this was after 2019 when Kaczynski got re-elected. Yeah, so there was even more. There was a kind of another disturbed. Oh my God, what's happening? How can this be? How can this continue? How can the Poles not have seen the error of their ways? And I kind of I think I took the piss really out of other journalists. I think it was kind of a bit sneaky and a bit sly in many ways, and I kind of regret it. And I wrote it in during COVID. We had a mount. We used to go to this mountain lodge near to in Meszana Dolna, which is sort of south of Krakow. Very beautiful place, but we were there with 3 kids for 5 months, and we didn't really leave. And there was it was just like a weird time. So anyway, I wrote this book. It got published also by Central European University Press, and that got terrible reviews. The English, the people that I criticized in it were not happy.
Of course,
as you would expect, right? I mean, they were. I think the word I would probably use now is bitchy. I think it was
right.
I think it was a really kind of bitchy, sour book. When I look at it, I'm slightly embarrassed about it. I'm not. There's a kind of the sense of being published after the first one was sort of diminished. So I'm not sure if I could go back now, I'd rewrite it. I'd write it differently. But it's there.
You learned from it.
Yeah, I hope so. I think I'd rewrite it completely though. I mean, in a sense, I think the fourth one, the one that I'm finishing now, I think is a rewrite of that. It's me putting myself into the book and saying, well, actually, I was one of the people I was criticizing. I was no different really from them. And we're all kind of complicit in that. The third one, the third book I wrote, we came back to Poland. I got stuck in COVID, didn't go back to Germany, so I stayed in Poland. And after COVID, I found it quite difficult to get work. Work wasn't difficult actually; it was just meaningful work that became difficult. So I was doing a lot of stuff that I didn't really want to do, and and then it felt like things were kind of slowly falling off. So I was doing a lot of copy editing, translating, that kind of thing, and it was becoming. I guess even then, it was probably slowly being taken over by AI, or
Uh-huh.
whatever. I don't know. It may have been. I mean, it may have just been that people didn't like me. It may have been that the book the book sort of put the clappers on my career a little bit. But so I kind of survived. But then at some point in 2021, I went to the border with Belarus, Polish border with Belarus, and it was an article or a set of articles I was going to do for Deutsche Welle, and I wanted to do some kind of reportage. Go talk to migrants, refugees, people crossing over the border, locals, etc. To get a sense of what was going on. And I went there. I probably went there 10 times between the end of 21. And the end of 21 was the period in which most of the people,
Mhm.
like huge numbers of people coming over the border. There was this kind of, this kind of reaction. My God, what's going on? We're being invaded. All of that stuff. So and the book and the reportage sort of started to sort of turn into a book. And then over the next 2 years, as the work, my kind of proper work diminished, the book acquired more significance. So
Mhm.
I spent a lot of time doing that. That's being published in 3 weeks. It's called Notes from the EU's Eastern Edge, and then the subtitle is How Migrants Weaponized on the Polish Belarusian border. And it's being published by Amsterdam University Press. It costs €134. So
Okay.
if
Okay.
anybody has that money, I'll be surprised. But it's an academic book. I got deeply into kind of Lacanian psychoanalysis, partly because I was in need of some kind of therapy. I couldn't afford to go to a real therapist, so I started to read a lot about Lacan.
It is really interesting. Just between like just you and I speaking,
Yeah.
I would love to. I also did a bit of a skimming through. Peter sent me a bit about your latest about to be published, and I would love to get into it. It seemed very interesting. For me, it's only been 3 weeks, 3 years, sorry, since
Yeah.
I've lived in Poland, and um, definitely when you first arrived to Poland, you have your own immediate thoughts and expectations, but over the years they change. The more you're fluent
Yeah.
in Polish, I
Yeah.
imagine. I believe in one of your published books, it was the idea of the Western opinion of Poland, right? And I remember as I don't know if exactly everything you've mentioned, but I know as someone who's lived in the U.S. I was born in France, but I've lived in the U.S. about 25 years,
Oh, okay.
and I did a bit of traveling before and after COVID, went
Yeah.
around Europe. And the more and more I started to meet people that said, John, have you ever visited Poland? Just give it a try, go check it out. And I did, and I was very pleasantly surprised compared
Yeah.
to in the US, you always
The expectations
typically,
are so low, I
yeah,
think.
yeah,
It's kind of,
yes,
either people
yes,
don't know anything, or they think of, potatoes and people queuing for,
right.
and
Uh,
tanks and, and
and
angry people,
I
cold
I
weather.
just I just remember a French guy I met in Norway because I lived in Norway a couple years, and I specifically remember him telling me, uh, you know, just prepare yourself when you visit Poland because nobody speaks English, and I
Yeah.
thought that was really the irony of a French, telling me that nobody speaks, English first of all,
Yeah.
uh, and it
Well,
just wasn't that.
it's not, that's not true anymore, is it? I mean, that,
Mm,
when I first came here, whenever I was 93, no, it was true. Nobody really spoke English. The
okay. Oh wow.
They did. I mean,
Mm,
and the people that did thought that they knew everything about your country. They were kind of experts on
okay.
Shakespeare and
Yeah.
whatever, or the New York Yankees, whichever place that they'd learned English,
Yeah.
or the thing that they were always kind of specialists
Yeah, sure.
and kind of knew that that's a very Polish thing. I think I don't know if you've come across that, but people love
Well,
to think that they're kind of
I'm curious. Yeah, I'm
they're
curious on
special.
your side.
Sorry,
I'm curious. I'm curious coming from you then when you arrived. You said so. 89 was when you had first.
I came in '93.
In
Um,
93. Okay.
yeah, I came. I was 20. I was 24, I think, and I
Mm-hmm.
I'd studied like international relations at
Okay.
university, and during '89 I was doing my masters. So it was like the Berlin Wall came down like the first or
Wow.
second month of the starting
Uh-huh.
that. So it was like, wow, we're in the middle of this thing,
Yeah.
uh,
Mm-hmm.
and I was kind of fascinated. I was kind of fascinated by it. My dad used to come to Poland when I was a kid,
Okay.
for work. And he always talked about it like he always brought back bottles of vodka and usual stuff. Um,
Uh-huh.
and he had Polish friends that would come, and there was always this kind of they'd visit they'd have like exchanges, right? My dad was a
Uh-huh.
probation officer he worked for
Okay.
the London Probation Service, so he used to come
Uh-huh.
to Poland to look at prisons. Yeah,
Wow.
he used to visit
Yeah.
Polish prisons, right? And so Polish social worker people would come to Britain to visit British prisons. Right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I was 10 at the time, so not really sure what was going on. But there was always this kind of
And
fascination with. I had a fascination with Poland because they were always whispering. It was kind of like there were always
uh-huh.
secrets, and there was always. I remember when they came as a group.
Mm-hmm.
There was always one guy that nobody spoke to. Everyone was kind of very guarded about talking to this one guy, and this one guy was the
Okay.
member of the party, yeah, or the state apparatus, or
Really?
the person that was looking after them, making sure that nobody disappeared or said anything bad or whatever. I don't know what it was, but
And
there was some kind of fascination. So
yeah.
there was this kind of layered
Mm-hmm.
discourse, if you like. You can
Mm-hmm.
say one thing here, but not here. You can, different tone. I kind of sensed that even as a kid.
And so, and eventually, when you went back and lived in Poland, did you see any major changes over the last, when you were there at first until now? What are some big
Um,
changes you would say?
the biggest the biggest changes, I think, when I first came, I remember the first day that I arrived in Sopot, and it
Mm-hmm.
felt like going back kind of to the 1950s. I
Okay.
mean,
Okay.
I don't remember the 1950s. I wasn't, I was born in 1968, but
Uh,
it felt like what it would be like in a kind of British provincial town in the 1950s. That
all right.
there's Sopot. There's the Monte
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Cassino,
Mm-hmm.
Monchak, the main street. And it was like people just wandering up and down, kind of like in their Sunday best, eating ice creams. It was, it just felt weird, and people just badly dressed. Uh, there was nothing
Because
open really. There weren't that many restaurants. It was quite dark. It was it felt very ordinary, but very, very kind of just old
right.
fashioned.
It, and it's funny, thinking back, since I was in Sopot, I think 6 months ago or half a year ago, and now one of the tri-cities. It's like a little party area now, very
Yeah.
different from I imagine what it was.
It
So
wasn't no. Well, it was a party area then, but it was just more. It was just less well organized.
uh,
It wasn't kind of commercialized because the beaches in the summer. I was there in July. I spent all of July there, '93, and it was parties on the beach. Every night dancing, and there was also
okay.
there were nightclubs. There was a
Mm,
casino. There were places. There were all the things were there, but they were just a little bit hidden away. They weren't kind of in
sure.
your face. You had to go and find
Yeah.
them.
So, Joe, you've sent me a manuscript of a as yet unpublished book called Out of the Loop, and I have to say, my mind is boggled. It's a fascinating tale. It's a very personal story from your perspective. You're in the middle of the story, but it also ties in many other elements. Is it possible to give us a bit of an overview of that of this remarkable publication?
Yes, I was writing. I was writing a book about the border. It was a kind of reportage stroke academic. It became more academic the more I went on. It was also being published by an academic publisher, so I had to kind of introduce, there had to be a kind of academic rigor to it. But I got very engaged with Jacques Lacan. His theories, psychoanalytic theories about misrecognition and other things. And I realized when I'd finished that book, I realized that I'd spent a lot of time going to this border and never crossing it. That may sound a bit irrelevant, but it struck me as being important. And then at the end of last year, sort of October, November, I had some kind of personal crises connected to money, connected to my marriage, connected to all sorts of things. I had the sense that I wanted to leave Poland. I wanted to go home. It was a weird feeling. It was like a surge of homesickness. After 10 years or 14 years, whatever it is I've been here, in my second round, I wanted to go home. And I didn't have enough money to go and see a therapist. So I kind of used ChatGPT. I kind of used AI to be my therapist for a little while. And I got into Lacanian psychoanalysis. I probably misunderstood it in many ways, but it started to kind of push me in the direction of writing about the kind of personal, anecdotal, emotional things which had driven me, pushed me to go to the border and to write this previous book. Why was I going to a border in Eastern Europe? Between Poland and Belarus. Why was I interested in migrants, foreigners, non-Europeans, people from radically different parts of the world coming into Europe? And it started to kind of make sense that I should somehow try and put all of the bits that didn't go into the academic book into this book. I don't know how much I should go into this, but I also was I fell in love with somebody else at the same time, or I thought I did. And there was this weird kind of period of about 2 months where I was writing kind of love. It was a book that was a kind of love story to somebody who wasn't in love with me.
So it's a chaos going on, isn't there?
And it felt very, very Polish. The two worlds were kind of bleeding into each other, and I was getting confused. And then the academic one, suddenly they said, okay, we send it to the copy editor. And then we'll publish, and the deadline, the schedule for the publication is May the 26th. So that was like 5 months ago. They told me. So, and I was kind of okay. What do I do now? So anyway, I was writing a lot of these they were kind of love letters, really, to this person. And she wasn't, she wasn't really interested in me, and it was very, very Polish story. I don't really want to go into that so much, but that's where the energy came from to write this book. Really, that I was in love with something which didn't want me, wanted me but didn't want me. It was like another border, without going too far down the metaphorical thing. Why was I going to this border and then being pushed back? Why was I trying to leave? Was I trying to escape something? What would happen if I did cross the border? Was I just observing the border kind of vicariously, kind of living through other people's experience? So anyway, I started to write the book, and it just started to grow and grow. Really, I started going back into my own childhood, the reasons that I came to as a young adult that I came to Poland. What was I looking for? What did I find? And the idea of going home. So it's slightly melancholic study, I guess, of homesickness, and the sense actually that home, once you've left it, never really exists again, right? You always kind of you want to go back to something that's not going to be there. So, and then I'm in the process now of getting divorced, selling my house, and I'm kind of in the process. I'm kind of at the stage where I'm thinking, okay, what do I do now? Do I stay in Poland? Do I, keep banging my head against the brick wall with, with this other person who doesn't want me, but she kind of likes me, but she's not sure, but it's kind of, and the idea of the loop. The book is about me going to see a non-existent Lacanian psychoanalyst in Saska Kempa in Warsaw. So I start in by introducing myself. This is me. My name's Joe. Hello. This is what's going on in my life. My head. Everything's a bit messed up. Can you help me? And he says, okay, so tell me your story. So, and I say, well, the story is going to be a bit messy. I'm going to go forwards. I'm going to go backwards, sideways, up and down. I'm going to be sometimes too clever, sometimes too stupid, sometimes brave, sometimes, not. And anyway, so the book is structured like this, and it's a series really of like chapters, or a series of they're really anecdotes, but they're also studies in this Lacanian idea of misrecognition. You're always looking at something. You're always looking at a reflection of yourself through other people's eyes, or what you think they're seeing in you. And it's about a man who walks around a lake, and it's a frozen lake. And there's actually a real lake that I used to walk around in Godsworth when I'm not feeling great. And I divided myself into my, kind of separate parts of me. So there's me as so-called the man. There's me as the boy, me as the child, and there's me as the editor. So the editor is the one who's kind of, the journalist, I guess, the person who wants to make myself look okay, look good, fit in, do the right thing, write the story in the right way,
with all the filters.
Yeah, exactly. So it's a discussion really about, the boy wants to be heard, and he's quite angry, and he's kind of resentful, and he's got, all of the kind of base, more primitive stuff. And the man is in the middle, caught between editor saying, no, that can't go in. That's not going in the book. And the boy saying, put it in the fucking book. It's got to go in the book. This is how it's real. Right. And so the man is a kind of reflection of my own ambivalence or weakness, or maybe it's me in a bad state trying to work out what to do next. But it took me on a long journey. So I was kind of confronted with a lot of historical stuff from my own family, my relationships with my mum and dad, and work and other things. And I wanted to make the book into to create the perfect arc where the man, me, collapses, ends up in therapy, goes through this painful process, but then ends in this kind of recovered, healed person walking out of the door, kind of Netflix series or a nice movie ending. And Lacan is Lacan just says, no, the loop, the loops that we inhabit, that we create for ourselves, they never end. The only thing we can do is just to recognize that they exist.
Yeah, I just had maybe perhaps a bit more personal question related to what you're saying. Do you think if you would have stayed in the UK, would have things been different, or all of these hardships you speak of? Is this something you think would have sort of followed you or happened anywhere you go?
Yeah, that's a brilliant question. I think now they would have followed me around wherever I went. I think I came to Poland as a way of escaping, a lot of the stuff that I didn't want to face. But then I reconstructed it in these other stories, really here, and Poland, in a sense, became like a kind of the scenery, the background, or I don't know what you call it, the stage for me to play out a lot of stuff that I'd not really dealt with when I was in the UK when I was younger. So no, I think it would have. I think in the UK I might have hidden it better. I might have had more money, a better career, But no, I think I would have been as unhappy as I ended up being here eventually, and then having to face at the age of 57 same shit.
Is it too
Mhm.
simplistic to say that you were yearning for a sense of belonging and that you were maybe seeking it here and didn't find it? And maybe when you didn't find it, you were yearning for that to be somewhere else? So kind of chasing something
Um,
that perhaps was
yeah,
was
I think
uncapturable.
absolutely that's what it was. Yeah, I think I was looking for a family, sense of Poland. When you join in whichever form you join, whether it's through work or friends or family, it has a way of kind of taking you in. You
Hmm.
become you get given a position. It may be a position of foreigner, on the edge, but it's still in. I got married. I've been married twice to Polish women, and you suddenly acquire a status, which I mean I've never been married in the UK, so I'm not sure. I'm not actually sure how how that would compare, but
Mhm.
it just felt a very firm, stable kind of position to have. But at the end, it didn't resolve a lot of the deeper stuff that was going on, I think.
Mhm.
And then, personal relationships fragment, marriages fall apart anyway. Relationships, they have a tendency to lose their magic after a while. And then I kind of realized that I was missing something a bit more basic inside myself, I think. I mean, it sounds a bit Hollywood, sounds a bit corny, but it was like having to go back to childhood, to go back
Mhm.
to the origins of a lot of things that I'd been avoiding, I think, until about, I don't know, a month or 6 weeks ago. I wasn't really planning to publish this. It was just going to be something which I would look back on in
Yeah.
5 years and go, oh my God, did that really happen? That's quite embarrassing. Did I really write all that stuff down? Um, so anyway, I started to kind of edit the book, and some of the latter chapters now that I've written in the last few days, in the last week, they're about how we self-censor and how I'm now thinking, who's going to read this book?
Mhm.
And am I going to hurt people? Should I change people's names? Should I, places,
Hmm.
scenes that happened? Will
That's
my kids read this
the
book?
editor speaking
You know,
there.
yeah, exactly. No,
Mhm.
exactly. And the boy is saying, just publish it.
Yeah.
Just do it. Get it out there.
Mm.
And then actually there's the end is where the publisher with a capital P steps in
Mm.
and he says, just publish it, and publish and be damned.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And I'll probably publish it on my own website. I mean, unless a real publisher steps in and says, yeah, that's great, we'll publish it. Which I can't really see it being placed on a UK bookshelf, really. I mean, it's too much. There's too much Poland in it.
Hmm.
There's too much probably sort of self-indulgent memoir-y stuff
Mhm.
that maybe or may be nicely written, it may be funny, it may be sad, etc. But I don't think, I'm not famous. If I was Russell Brand, it would probably be much more interesting, right? So, and I think in Poland, it would need to be in Polish.
Yeah. Sure.
Um, so
Mm.
that's another border
Aha.
that I'd have to,
All
I'm
on
not
its
sure how many
own.
people would read it in English if it was published in Poland.
So it's the end of a chapter by publishing this. Yeah.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
so.
With a bit
I
of
think so. And
closure.
also, I want to keep control over it, over the content. I don't really
Mhm.
want to change anything.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And I think if it went to a publisher, I'd probably get a lot of. Do you think we could cut out that word? I use kind of quite hard English, kind of old Anglo-Saxon swear words
Yes, indeed.
quite a lot in it.
Yeah. So stuff that would get beeped out
Um,
on a family podcast like this.
yeah, I was going to say it, but then I thought, no,
We know what you
I mean,
mean. Uh,
there's a kind of enjoyment as well. There's a kind of, just saying the word and then
Absolutely.
saying it over and over again until
Hmm.
yeah.
Well, Joe, it's been fascinating talking to you, and thank you for sort of revealing so much to us. It's we feel like got a real insight
Yeah.
into your soul there, into your life, into your challenges and struggles, and also achievements. And if it doesn't sound too pithy to end, we're going to ask you our.
5 big questions.
If you don't mind, we ask these questions to everyone who are guests onto our podcast, and we got a really broad and rich range of answers. So we're going to kick off with question number one, which is, what is it you really love about Poland? If indeed you love anything about this country right now.
There are loads of things. I mean, I actually really, really like Poland. I mean, it's a brilliant place. So I have a lot of bad things to say about it, but I genuinely like it. I think what I've written down when I got it, I think the sense of humor, the very, very dark, black sense of humor that Poles have, and that, something speaks to me. In that, I love that. It's kind of deadpan. It's quite English actually in some ways, but it's just darker. It's almost not funny. It's almost like people are just commenting on real life.
How interesting.
So the sense of humor you really appreciate.
Yeah. Yes. I think so, sometimes you don't know that people are being funny because they're just and sometimes they aren't being funny actually, but I think they
catches
are.
you by surprise.
Yeah.
And what about, so as the second question, we'll ask you, what would be your biggest frustration then?
The biggest frustration that I find is, again, this is probably a very British thing, is that people are quite rude.
Comes up quite often
I
this
know
way.
that. I know. I'm sure a lot of people say that, but it's not people being rude. It is just a way of being. People in shops, they bark at you. They don't say please or thank you. Those kinds of small things.
I actually love that.
And you get on a bus and people kind of elbow you, and it always feels like kind of public spaces are places where people just have to kind of compete with each other. So they're just not very nice. They're not very friendly. But then you'll get to the front of the queue and you'll find, the woman who's rude suddenly becomes incredibly friendly, and yes, we can do that if we do it under the table or around. There's another way of doing everything.
Nice.
But it's a kind of pet hate. The bureaucracy as well. I mean, I think the two things are kind of related. There's a kind of frustration when you have to go to like 5 different offices, with different bits of paper, and then you're sent back to the first office to get that signed by the director of the blah 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 blah. So it's not about people really. I think it's more about culture, like institutions really. The way people are kind of brought up feel as if this is how we need to behave.
You mentioned earlier a little lodge in Mszana Dolna. Is that your happy place? So question 3 is, what's your favorite place in Poland?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, it's lovely. Yeah, Mszana Dolna. Mszana Dolna.
It's quite craggy. You've got lovely woods there, haven't you? It's a nice region.
Yeah, it's a beautiful place. It's there's a small ski slope about 5 kilometers east. No, I don't know. Mszana Dolna it's not very beautiful. It's not an amazing place, architecturally, but the location is stunning. A lot of woods, a lot of trees. I've had some great times there. Mszana Dolna.
Great. And what about for question number 4? Any favorite Polish food or drink you could recommend us?
I
had a bit of drool when I asked that.
I think we all do.
Kielbasa the other day, and it's just.
The first thing I wrote down was flaky.
Unpopular choice. I like that.
Flaky. When I came to Poland, when I came here in '93, I stayed at the Dom Studencki, the student dormitory at Gdańsk University in Sopot. I can't remember the name of it now. And that's really what they served in the canteen. Plastic bowls, plastic spoons, but this really delicious flack. Flack is intestines, I think, isn't it? It's tripe, and it has it's like octopus's legs, kind of hairy
tentacles.
Tentacles. Thank you. Legs. Yeah.
Yeah.
uh,
That slimy. Ugh.
yeah, slightly spiced up. There's a
Mm.
kind of spicy thing to it. So yeah, flaky, but a lot of Polish food. I love the way they do fish.
Mm,
The
mhm.
kind of fish and chips stuff. They do it like the British, but just better. When I used to
Wow.
live in Gdynia, they're amazing, amazing fish. In the UK, they just put too much batter
Mm.
Hmm.
on it.
Yeah,
So,
I get that.
yeah,
They do make great smoked trout as well in Poland.
yes,
They're a
yeah,
big fan
exactly,
of
yeah,
that.
yeah,
It's
yeah,
delicious.
absolutely,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
And
Okay. Great.
brings us on to question 5. And just leave us, please, with a piece of music or a song that speaks to you that you'd like to tell us about.
Or you could sing it
Um,
if you prefer.
no, I'm not gonna. I'm not gonna
Thank
sing it.
goodness.
It would. There are some things I can't. I can write about. I can self-expose in words on the page. My song is Kazik, and it's 12 grosza, 12 grosza, and it's just a brilliant song. I'm not sure if I totally understand all of the lyrics, but it's about having no money, I guess,
Oh,
and
there we go.
and drinking. That's how
It's kind of autobiographical.
and I just love Kazik,
Mhm.
and then the band Cult. It's just there's something about Kazik which is kind of quintessentially Polish. I think it's great.
Well, great. Well,
Kind of like a lovable uncle. He's a bit of a rogue, but actually a decent guy. And he's talking about he sings about his kids quite a lot as well. So it's like
Okay.
how do you balance family plus being a rock and roll star in a kind of Polish way, and the music is also great. So
that
yeah,
helps.
that.
Okay.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah,
Thank you.
great.
Thank you, Joe. We'll add that to our vault, which you can access on
Yes.
Spotify. Joe, thanks ever so much for joining us today. It's been an absolute pleasure talking with you and
Yeah,
for
thank
revealing so
you.
much.
Thank you
Wish
very
you all the
much. You
very
too.
best for future plans and future publishing plans. I'll pop some links in
Thank you.
our episode description so people can find you and find stuff that you've done.
Okay. No, thank you very much. Really appreciate it.
Well, that was Joe. Honest, wasn't he?
He was indeed very honest. I really, as I mentioned before, appreciated him being so open about his life experiences. And I think listening to that, it gives quite a bit of respect towards Joe.
I think it does. And now he's very kindly shared a manuscript of his unpublished book, Out of the Loop, with me, which is, effectively his autobiography. It's very good, actually. I do hope he finds a publisher for it. So if anyone listening out there knows a publisher that can help him get that self-published, I highly recommend that. I'm sure it'll be a very popular publication.
Yeah, I think so too. I look forward to it, and we'll definitely have to give this book a go when it's available.
We will indeed. I always think when we bring guests onto the show, how suitable they'll be as a co-host at the time when you decide you've had enough of this. Is that ever going to happen, do you think?
Absolutely not. You are stuck with me, Peter Rooney.
Right. Okay. So a message to all our previous guests, don't wait by your phone just yet. Well, we're going so far pretty well, I think. And thanks for everyone who's been tuning in to our weekly bulletins. We really enjoy doing it, and we love to have you communicating with us. So if you'd be so kind as to visit our website and have a look at my blog. John hasn't done that yet, because I can see where all the stats are.
There's the first time for everything.
I mention you a lot in it, so if I were you, I'd get your lawyers to look it over once in a while. But you can read that at
pol-ish.eu.
And people can also send me an email if they want. We still communicate in the old-fashioned way. Do you know my email address, John?
Oh, of course I do. It's
peter@pol-ish.eu.
It's very clever. I like what you did there. And really, then we just have to say goodbye and remember that we are not Polish.
Not Polish.
We are, in fact,
Polish.
Not bad.
That was all right.
Better.
We've got a couple more years to perfect that.